How would you describe how you get an idea for a song? Like, how does that happen for both of you?
So, getting an idea. Okay, I feel like ideas are everywhere. And I had someone recently message me. He's like, I'm out of ideas. I'm lost of ideas, I think is what he said. And it made me think about like what that really means. I don't think ideas are things that are lost. I think that we're just blind to them. And I think that comes down to being perception, being present, and being open to what is happening right now. The concept of finding an idea, I feel like is very much like reaching into an infinite, like a stream. It's of water. Like it's endlessly, infinitely flowing, and it's always there. You just have to know that you can. It's all inspiration and all of the most profound ideas and innovations and whatever onwards to infinity is always right at arm's reach. And it's just a matter of, are we able to actually believe that it's there? Because I think belief is kind of like the portal. It's like if you don't believe it, you're not going to see it. You're going to be blind to it, and you're not going to be able to grab anything. But when you do believe, it's like the belief in itself for it to exist is what creates, is what makes it real, is what makes it exist. And so going back to the question, where do ideas come from? I find that like, it really comes down to, am I in a state that I'm open enough to receive it? And I could literally be inspired by anything. And it comes down to, am I present? Am I feeling relaxed enough to be in touch with what I'm feeling? It's something that for me personally, it's something that I've struggled with because I am incredibly heady and cerebral. And a lot of times I'd say most of my life, I've kind of been trained myself to not trust my feelings. And so I kind of just feel like I'm a floating head a lot. And these past few years, and I think just being a creative anyway, has always been a therapeutic balance to kind of mandates getting back in touch with myself. If I have writer's block or if I am just lost of ideas, that is kind of a litmus test for, well, how am I doing personally, and how am I? It kind of is like a reality check. Like that indicates that there is something that is either like something is stuck. I'm not aware of something. I'm not connected. I'm not being present enough. But it's like as soon as I am present and feeling what is happening right now, I hear things and I see things, and you can't judge it. You know, you kind of just have to let it happen. It's like I'll hear a melody and I might analyze it and be like, oh, that sounds weird. I don't want to identify with what I think that represents to me. But once you let go of that, once you let go of identity and judgment, and just start expressing it, start moving, start whether you're an artist or a dancer or poet, it's just start putting words down or start flowing, start applying it. And that in itself is going to inform you what the next step is. And you just get into a flow. Like once you find this balance between, you're not judging, but you're analyzing just enough to balance it with that natural abstractive energy that is flowing into you now. It's like it's siphoning. And, yeah, I mean, it's important to practice and like learn your tools so it can be second nature. So you're not stumbling and trying to figure out how to use the technology when you're feeling the impulse, the creative impulse. Once you get that down, then yeah, you can just flow. It's self-perpetuating, and that is the flow state for me, and it is what I live for.
Totally. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, ideas. It's going back to the spiritual awakening that I had. I felt more restricted in my being before. I felt lyrically, I was stuck. I mean, I started to sort of write about, you know, this experience a little bit, but as I got older, I felt more free and more free as I did it more and more and more and more. And now if I go into my studio, I could write a million different ideas. I never have a limitation because there's always a new sound that's coming out that you can purchase, or like you can get a template for, or there's the expression, good artists copy, great artists steal. And you have to, be open to be an open channel for yourself and the universe to be like, I'm going to create today. Like, I'm going to like just get more into that mind state that you're not limited. You're always unlimited. And the more that you believe that, the more you can create, period. And yeah, I mean, if I went in right now, I could make another song. Like, it just never stops for me. There might be, it's funny because like sometimes you get stuck into like a musical repetition of a certain chord progression or bass line or bass sounds. But you kind of, you know, like, I'm hitting a wall with this. I need to branch out and try something different. And it's just experimentation and not judging it and not analyzing it to a certain degree, and just keep, you know, looking for inspiration. And inspiration is the biggest thing. Like, I had a songwriting teacher tell me, like, go watch a movie, you know, or something, get inspired, and that will make you create something. So you have to get out of your comfort zone and have experiences that are different from your everyday experiences. And then once you do that, you'll really start creating. Hence, you know, the CE5, again, the meditation experience.
Do you guys ever create from emotions? Like, let's say you're like feeling a little sad or feeling not 100% like happy. Does that inspire you too? Or is it more from something else?
I feel like the emotion itself is kind of like the energy, and it may color what, like, stylistically what I'm doing, but the emotion itself, I wouldn't say that I create from, unless I'm identifying strongly with it. Like, if someone wronged me, that becomes its own idea. Like, I'm feeling this abstract, like, frustration. I'm analyzing it, and I'm putting some label to it. And then I can kind of take that label of like, I'm wronged and I'm frustrated, and kind of hold that out in front of me and observe, like, what does this concept mean? And essentially get ideas from that. It's kind of like my mood board, so to speak. But like, for me, oftentimes I kind of find myself having a better time when, and I also think making music is kind of a part of the process of understanding what it is, the abstraction that I am feeling, instead of trying to label what it is and then write from the concept of the label. I find my best music is the music that sounds the best to me that I create, and the most fluid process of creating it comes from when I sit down without any goal or intention. If I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a song like this song that was really popular that I did before, it's going to feel contrived. I'm not going to feel like, I may come up with some cool things, but it's going to feel contrived. It's going to feel like this isn't really, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I that's interesting. I have a similar experience. I don't go in thinking, all right, I'm going to make this song about this specific way.
Yeah.
Like,
or it's going to go on this label and it's going to be this thing.
Yeah. You don't go into it like that. I have the same experience. I go into it like, all right, what am I going to do today? I don't even know. I'm just going to play with some sounds and try some different ones I haven't tried yet. That's just like,
You're more present that way.
Same way here.
Every time I go in, there have been so many times where like I have a remix due. There's a deadline, and like, okay, I got to do this remix. It can't be like this other song. It can't be too much like the original. I start like limiting myself in ways that are preventing me from finding enjoyment in it and actually feeling it. I'm interrupting the process before I start rolling. And so many times I'm doing that. I'm stuck and I'm just like, ooh, I have this other idea. I'm just going to like come back to this remix and start just like a new project just to get this idea down real fast. And oftentimes when I am kind of in a rush, this is like goes back to my childhood when I started making music on the computer just as like an escape. Cause I don't want to do homework right now. I have this idea. I'm just going to have to get this down really fast. And there is no time to overanalyze what that is. I'm just getting shit down. And it's kind of like the same process. Next thing I know, I am fully immersed and flowing, losing track of time. Obligations aside, it's incredible. That's the state that I've been striving for. That's the state that I was trying to get into. But mentally, when I'm doing like remixes or whatever, and it's just ironic because it isn't work in the usual sense. It isn't like, okay, I'm going to sit down and critically think and use my left brain, and it doesn't feel like work when you're flowing. It feels like you're not pushing, but you're being pulled, and you just allow yourself to be pulled. It's like infinite energy is just there. Infinite ideas are just there. And that's how I just destroy my sleep schedule is I'm just letting myself flow for like literally 24 hours straight.
I mean, same with me. A lot of people ask like, why do you not sleep like 8 hours a day? Because it's like most of the time you're just wanting to create. And for me, I only like to go to bed when I'm like tired, like when I need to sleep. Because I just feel like if you're in that flow state, why stop it? Or like why just create a time to stop because you think you need sleep? Because
I know.
Yeah, I'm starting to understand both of your sleep schedules because I'm starting to do a lot more Kosmonic video work and stuff and editing. And I'm like, you get excited to like work on it. Like
and then when you sleep, you like actually get good sleep because you're not like worried that.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. You're like, oh, I did all that. That's a good amount of work in a day. Right. Like I got that much done today.
Right.
There's a tranquilizing satisfaction once you let yourself actually turn off.
Yeah, because when I was working on the album that I'm going to release in January, I would do that and like, oh, I got to get it a mix done. Like I'll mix it. Like even though I mix my own stuff and I record my own voice, make my own music, write everything. I master it, everything. And I just like go ahead and master it that night, even though the lyrics aren't done or anything. I just want to listen to it in the car because I'm like, do I feel it? Is it there? Does this excite me? Like, is it like, is this going to be cool? I have to hear it in my car because this is a different experience than from the studio environment or headphone environment.
The environment. Totally.
Yeah. So it's really great to be able to export that at, midnight and then sleep. And then you're like, all right, I can listen to that in the morning. That as you're going to your job, it's like, okay.
Yeah, then you're excited to wake up and like do
That's
more,
my life,
rather than like waking up and being like just two in your head about everything. Because I love I've been to a lot of like workshops or weekend trainings where it's kind of the whole idea of the military where they break you down so then they can really build you back up. So I kind of do that to myself in terms of my mental state, because I feel like if you're too awake, sometimes your mind is too active to just stop. So I like to be in a place where I'm kind of not exhausted, but not super awake.
Yeah.
Where it's like you kind of feel sleepy, but you're not. Because then I feel like then the ideas just come and you're kind of like just in the moment, happening live, doing it. Rather than like, oh, you get an idea and like, I'll do it later. It's just like coming.
Yeah.
Because I think you kind of have to be at that place where you're not needing to do anything, but you're also not too tired to go to sleep. Like that's where I find my best inspiration or like things that I want to create. But when you guys are like performing, because that's the only thing I don't relate to, because you both can perform your music, do you find when you have to do that you are in a similar state, or do you have to be more of that like extrovert?
So I haven't performed any Kosmonic material, but I have done acoustic performances, and the two I've done recently, from what I used to do, like back in Nashville with this other band, completely different experiences. It's just like everything doesn't have to be perfect, you know, like it's just a completely different state of mind now, from what I used to do. But I feel just a sense of, I get into a state of everything is fine. No matter what. No matter what happens, like everything is fine. And that is such a peaceful way of going on and performing, instead of the state of like, here's my capo and all my picks. I got all these cables and stuff. Or my backing tracks, you know.
There's no room
but,
to think about that stuff in that state.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Definitely.
But yeah, like that's kind of the state I'm in now than what I used to be. Again, because of this experience I had, and multiple experiences. I have many more that I have that keep me in check with that reality, a bigger reality than myself. And I think that's the part I'm just like, okay, everything is fine because I know it's all one. Like I'm all part of the people that are watching me. And now what I'm trying to do with performances is, I really want to get into this, is sending out peaceful intentions to people in the crowd as I'm performing. Yeah. That's what I really want to start doing, is sending universal peace and oneness to people watching, and hope that they get a sense of that, because it's creates such a peaceful life for me. And yeah, I could say more.
I totally feel that. And that's something that I'm kind of realizing myself. Like, we have these platforms, and we have the cohesion and power with our voices, musically, to do that. Why not? You know, why not get in that state? Yeah, it's better for everyone, you know? For me, performing so throughout my life, I've had multiple, like, I've had different stages of my life where I'm performing different things. I've been performing in front of an audience since I was 5. I'm classically trained in piano, and that was something that I did up until I was about 13. Like auditions and recitals and competitions and stuff. And it was really interesting, because that was kind of my foundation of being a performer. Technically everything needs to be perfect. It was very left-brained. It was very disembodied from my emotions. But it kind of gave me the resilience to, like, anxiety, and still being able to show up and do the thing and be professional. Then when I was 13, I picked up the bass guitar, started playing in some bands. I was a part of this extracurricular music school called the School of Rock, and where we learned covers and play with other musicians throughout, you know, between ages 13 and 19. I did that, and I went on 2 tours before the end of high school, that was kind of like this middle ground between being a performer, but also getting more in touch with a community and my own emotions. And then at around that time, age 19 was when I, like, released my first album, went to college, started getting booked shows to play as a solo electronic music performer, essentially DJing my own music. So figuring that out was kind of like this natural progression of, like, being left-brained to more right-brained and free-flowing. And through that process, like, exploring what it means to be expressive physically. And initially it was really hard. It was really hard to feel loose and comfortable in my own body. It felt very much like extremely confining. I felt very stiff and, like, defensive, especially because it's my own music now. Like, it's just me and my own music, really nothing to hide behind. I'm out there. And I the thing that kind of made me realize that I felt like I couldn't perform unless I was high. And it wasn't until probably, I don't know, my 5th or so performance that I realized all this is doing. I would take MDMA and then play shows. And because I felt like that really allowed me to be comfortable being myself. And I realized all this is doing is just removing the anxiety component. It's showing me who I really am inside. I don't need to use this. And so I started performing with like sober, and that's what I prefer. I love doing that because I realize anxiety is just energy that's stuck. If you can loosen that up, and once that can flow through you, once you remove the resistance, then it's excitement, and it's just raw energy that can fuel whatever aspect of you that you want to express, you know? And that's kind of been my thing. And I, on stage, I've been, I am very expressive. I've been performing for about 11 years consistently. And I still get anxious before I go on, but there's that trust of like, this is going to sublimate very quickly once I get into the flow, and people are going to feel that too. And it happens. And I feel so high naturally while that's happening. And so usually like after the first or second song of my set that I'm really getting into it, I see other people getting into it, and that creates this feedback loop where
you feed off the crowd and everything.
I feed off the crowd. I'm in this hyper energized and aware state. I'm able to think really fast, but the entire thing is like, it's really interesting because it is this flow state. It is this hypnotic meditative flow state where me dancing and moving is a part of it. It's like it like balances out the mental processes of doing the technical things, and it really just becomes one moment. And before I know it, it's done, and I did the thing, and everyone's happy. Preparation and anticipation for like a 1 hour moment. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And it happens, and I'm like, full catharsis mode, and then I'll go back to, and I'll interact with fans and stuff, and just constant bombardment. And then I'll go back to my hotel room, and I'm like, the silence is so loud, and like internally too, I'm like, there's all this energy, and I don't know what to do with it, and it kind of in a way turns into anxiety again. But I've learned over the years to come down, like how to gracefully land from that. And a lot of that has to do with just not excessively, knowing where to draw the line. In the beginning, I was like, I will interact with anyone as long as they are as long as they're engaging with me. And I would get so drained, and like I would feel like strung out from it. Like I would feel like I'm tweaked, as if I was just like on I basically was on an adrenaline binge for a while.
Yeah.
But coming back home after that sort of thing is I feel inspired. I definitely need to like relax. And it is nice to know that I did the thing. I deserve to have time to stop working for a bit and relax and repair. And, but yeah, usually I'm very inspired after live events like that.
That's awesome.
So nowadays I think it's pretty good. I'm about to go on tour, and I'm it's my first ever solo headlining tour. And it's technically a world tour too. My first few shows are going to be
technically it is.
My first few shows are going to be in Japan and China. And I'm like, am I prepared for this? And I feel like once I get to it, once it comes down to it, it's like, I'm going to be like, I just have to accept like, this is as prepared as I'm going to be. And when it happens,
you're going to be like, that wasn't such a big deal.
Dude, I know.
It's always like you do something new.
I know.
And then you're like, wait a minute, that wasn't as big as what I put in my head.
It's probably going to be like, that was awesome. That just flew by so fast.
Yeah.
Why was I worried about that for so long? Kind of a deal. That's how it always goes.
Yeah. Would you say letting go is a huge part of being a musician?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like in what way? Like, Adam, how would you say it's a big part of your music?
Well, I've just learned to let go, period. Because it's better to just move on and go on to the next thing. And it's like, it's fine.
Letting go for me, I think, like as an artist and a musician, letting go for me has a lot to do with letting go of who I think I should be, letting go of what how other people's expectations influence me. Because I've always kind of tried to be agreeable. I think I'm agreeable and a people pleaser, and it's like I want to agree with people, but sometimes I don't, and I need to allow that truth to just rise to the surface. Otherwise, I'm hurting myself by portraying what is untrue, and then having to like live with that. So like letting go for me on a social level, but also like on a creative level, letting go of what I think I should be doing, letting go of the judgments before there is anything that is manifested, or letting go of, I think letting go allows me to evolve, and like we're constantly changing and dynamic. Humans like to box things in and categorize them and label and organize. And you see it everywhere. I mean, the industry, any industry has that, and even like going back to like science, there's this tendency to keep things static and organized, but everything is in flux, including especially ourselves. And letting go and embracing the fact that we are constantly changing, I think is the best thing that we can do.
Yeah, I've learned so many like valuable lessons like over the years, like that one of them is like failure isn't real. It's just learning. It's just a learning.
Totally.
Failure does not exist.
That's why I'm like, I love to fail.
Yeah, and what was it? Thomas Edison that said, or his lab was on fire, and he brought all of his family like, watch this. This is great. And they're like, why are you so happy? He's like, because I get to build a new lab. You know, like I get to start over. Like I get to do it again. Like it's not,
Definitely.
it's such a different viewpoint. And if you live in that state, you will live a more fulfilled and happy life because you're not stuck in like, oh, I failed. I'm just going to go cry in the corner and cry my heart out for 10 hours and just feel terrible. Whereas if you train yourself to be like, if you want to be happy, you can train yourself to be happy and live in that state. If you work on it and you say, okay, I'm going to be in that. I'm not going to be afraid of failure. I'm not going to be afraid of what people think. Because if I continue to let that emotion affect me and be repetitious, I'm going to be in that state. Mm-hmm. We all don't want to be in a terrible mind state or emotional state. Train yourself to be positive, have a positive outcome, like outlook. Everything's fine. You're not dying. If you're dying or you're in a life-threatening situation, it's different. Mm-hmm. But for most people, we're not. That's the old biological sense that we still attach to. And we're not in the woods anymore. We're not in the jungles anymore, unless you're hiking, you know, but like, or driving. Yeah, but you gotta just like, you know, at some point society, I feel like should jump on that bandwagon.